Beautiful thing, exactly. So we got to get back to the basics. We got to learn the Bible. We got to get knowledge. We got to know, as Eric Owens, I keep going back to the things that he said a couple weeks ago, but he just hit on so many good things. But we got to know God. We got to figure this out. And he gave us some good pointers on how to do that. So anyway, without taking up any more time, survey the Old Testament, lesson 7. That covered the cards, if you kept the cards from 55 to 62. Some of these I had a little bit of trouble filling in exactly. Matt didn't give me the answers, so I had to go fill them out myself, just like you guys. So we'll talk about them. But the period of Bible history known as the Wanderings, which is right over here in these boxes next to it, began with the crossing of the Red Sea and ended with the crossing of what? The Jordan River. Okay, now this is the one I kind of struggled with, so I'll see what you guys got. In the Bible, this period of time covers all these blanks. What did you guys put down? Okay, the first 5 boxes. Okay, over on that side. Okay, all right. Anybody else get anything different? I put down the books. Yeah, that's what I put, like Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Yeah, that's what I put down. I don't know what he was after for an answer, but that's what I put down. Okay. Some key places during the wilderness wanderings. Mariah or Mara. What was the water there? What was going on with the water? It was bitter. Yeah. Okay. And then Elam was like an oasis with so many wells and so many palm trees. 12 and 70, okay? Ruth, Naomi changed her name to Mara. Yeah. Which is bitter. Yeah, that's right. Yep. The wilderness of sin. Here the Lord provided, miraculously provided something and something. What did the Lord provide in the wilderness of sin? Okay. I had quail. Was that the right spot? That was quail too, wasn't it? It was. And then it also said bread, but was that considered manna as well? Okay. Yeah, that was verse 14. Yeah, verse 14. Quail and bread were manna. Of course, manna was provided later on. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. Wasn't manna kind of more general term used sustenance? Like it symbolized like something that was raised or provided by the Creator. Didn't it have like a connotation?
It might have, Jake. I don't know on that one. Yeah, it's very, very well could have. Number 4. How many months after leaving Egypt the Israelites arrived at Mount Sinai? How many months? 3 months. Okay. And this is another one. This next one, kind of discussion that we can probably come up with several different things. 4 basic things that were accomplished at Mount Sinai. What did anybody put it down for? Give me one. What somebody? Okay, the law was given, obviously. Okay.
I said disobedience was punished.
Okay. I had that, of course, God reminded them of how he delivered them from Egypt. Right at the very beginning, the first couple of verses, he talks about, how I brought you out of there. So he reminded them of that again. Of course, delivery of the 10 Commandments, we know that. God also told the people to keep the covenant at this point, and or reminded them again about keeping his covenants. I don't know if this was one or not. I had down there that God descends on Mount Sinai and he speaks to the people. So I don't know if that's what Matt was looking for or not. Anybody have anything different? Okay, we'll move on. 2 tablets of stone are what? Yeah, 10 Commandments. And then it asks us to name the 10 Commandments, and we'll just go through these pretty quick. Thou shalt have no other God before me. Thou shalt not make any graven image. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Honor thy father and thy mother. Thou shalt not kill. Okay, kill was the first one. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness, and thou shalt not covet. Who wrote on the tablets? Yeah, God wrote. God did. Yeah. What else did God make Moses do on the second one? He had to go cut the stones out on the second one. Yeah. God provided the stones, wrote on them the first time, but when Moses smashes them, he says, you go cut them out this time, pal. Not so many words, you know. Discuss why or how and why the tablets of stone were broken. Well, the house pretty easy. Moses threw them down.
He was angry with the sin that he saw in the camp.
Yeah, he was angry. Well, God had already told him while he was still on the mountain, didn't he? God said, look what they're doing. Get down there to the people. Yeah. So God was already angry, and Moses goes down and sees what's going on. And he is extremely angry at their disobedience. And in his anger and his frustration, he throws this tablets down and breaks them. Moving on into number 10, which this says it was carved 58. The tabernacle is called the tent of worship. Okay. And who was the first high priest? Aaron. Okay. What were the duties of the high priest? Yes, he went in and offered atonement, okay, for himself and then for the people. Yeah, okay. So he offers atonement, okay. What else was he supposed to do?
Burn incense.
Burn incense. What else? I had that he was supposed to light the lamps. There was candlesticks. There was lamps in there. His duties were to light those. Okay. Anything else that he did? I'm sure he did. He was our mediator. He not our mediator. He was their mediator, same as Christ is for us. That's why Christ considered the high priest for us. I'm not sure if I got the right answer on number 13. The Levites were established as a blank tribe. Okay, that's what I said. What'd you say, Sal? Priestly. Okay. All right. Well, good. I feel better about that. Number 14. How many spies were sent into the land? How many? 12. Okay. One per tribe, right? And then they came again to, where did they meet up? Where did they come back to? Anybody see that one? I had to look for it a little bit. I put down Kadesh, or Kadesh. That's where they came back. The land, the city, town, whatever that's called. No.
That's verse 46.
Yep. Okay, so what was the report that the spies gave when they went and surveyed this new land? Pardon me? Well, okay. Well, they all came back and said what, though? It was good land. They all come back with that, didn't they? It's milk and honey, just like God promised, the whole thing. But then 10 of them said,
Mission impossible.
yeah, pretty much. It was mission impossible.
In fact, they talked about the fact that they were giants.
Yeah.
And of course, talked about the military factor.
Yep. Again, their fear took over at that point. After all that God had done for them, brings them out of Egypt and takes care of them and all this other things. And again, here they go lapsing back in and they forget. Okay?
They are seeing the initial contact with the land of Canaan, which they denied existed. God sent them in the wilderness.
Yep. Yeah, these 12 eyewitnesses to it. Who were the faithful spies? Who gave the good report? Joshua and Caleb. Yep. So because of this, of the bad report that they gave, how many years did they spend in the wilderness? Okay. And then why was it 40, number 18?
40 days they were gone.
1 year for each day they spied in the land. So they were gone 40 days. So that God says you're going to wander for 40 years. Okay, Compare and discuss the events of Exodus 17:6 and Numbers 20:1 through 13. How did they compare? They were in Kadesh when they come back from giving, or when they come back from spying out the land. They come back to this place of Kadesh. So what was the problem there? There was no water. There was no water to drink. God told Moses to do what at that point? Told him exactly. God told Moses. Well, of course, the people start murmuring. The people start saying, oh, here we go again. God's brought us out of Egypt. We had it so good here in Egypt, and everything was all hunky-dory. He's brought us into this desolate land, and now there's no water. Moses, what are you going to do? Moses says, Lord, I need some help here again. The Lord says, go speak to that rock. Well, Moses kind of went out on his own and struck it.
I would probably now that that way being said that if anybody told me to go talk to a rock, even if it's an all-powerful being, I would feel pretty stupid. I would do it anyway, but I would be tempted not to.
Yeah. And it's easy for us. We've said this about a lot of things. It's easy for us to stand back here and say, well, just like Peter denied Christ 3 times. Well, I never would have done that. Well, you don't know. You weren't put in that position.
These people had seen a lot of his covenants.
Exactly.
They walked across on dry land.
I know it. I know it. I know it.
You're not always at the top and God's shit.
I don't know. I talk to myself an awful lot. All right. Number 20. Of those who departed Egypt, only blank and blank were permitted to enter. Joshua and Caleb. All right. Card number 61 talks about the false prophet. Who was that? Balaam. And who was the king that tried to get Balaam to curse Israel? Balak. Moses was not allowed to enter the promised land. We can read about that in Deuteronomy 3:23 through 27 because he struck the rock. That was the reasoning for that. Yep. 24. Who was chosen by God to succeed Moses? Joshua. Okay. Who buried God? I just told you. Who buried Moses? God did. That's interesting. God buries Moses. Okay. All right. We're going to move on to lesson number 8. Lesson number 8 covers the book of Joshua and Judges. The lessons don't spend a lot of time in the book of Joshua. It spends more time over into the book of Judges. But we'll start with Joshua, and then before we actually get into the things about the Judges, we'll make a few comments. So just chime in here if you want to make any comments. We're not going to read all these verses that go with all this stuff. We'll just kind of hit these blanks that he's got. If anybody wants to say anything about them, go right ahead. And then we'll try to get back over to those questions and see if we can make our way through those as well this evening and try to get caught back up. But anyway, so took Moses's blank. What'd you put for there? What would you put for there? Okay, took Moses' leadership. I said place. So who took Moses' place? The next was Joshua. We already said that. Okay, and this is where we read about all this stuff that takes place here in the first chapter of Joshua. And at that point, Joshua is told, he is given the boundaries of the land that they're going to take over. He's told, it goes from the wilderness to this over into Lebanon, to the great river Euphrates, land of Hittites, down to the sea toward the going down of the sun shall be your coast. He sets the boundaries that Joshua is going to lead the people into. And as we said earlier, we're back to the basics of our Bible that we're studying. And so, these lessons don't go way in depth in every single book. So just like Joshua, we just have a few questions of Joshua, and there's a lot of different things that we could talk about. So in chapter 2, blank the spies. What happened to the spies? In chapter 2, they hid the spies. The spies were hidden. So the next blank, who hid the spies? Rahab. Okay. Of course, she wasn't a Jew. She wasn't any part of the children of Israel. But when she does this, her faith is made known. Her works are made known. And so her and her family are saved at this point when that city is overtaken. This next one, I was a little unsure about how to fill this one in. When you read the blanks, how would you fill that in? There we go. Now that makes sense. I wasn't even close. Let me write that. Scratch these out. I'm not even going to tell you what I had. Oh, there we go. Boy, that light just did not come on at all. All right, yeah, makes sense. That's what we're talking about. Chapter 6, the walls of Jericho. Okay. So how many total times were they told to walk around the city?
6 days.
Yeah, so how many total times did they do it? 13, yeah. They did it one time for 6 days. And then the 7th day, they did it 7 times. So they walked around that city 13 times. Another one of your points. Wouldn't you kind of feel kind of foolish doing that? We're going to do what? We're going to walk around this city again for 6 days? We just did that yesterday. Yeah.
So important to the locale, which didn't have walls, that they were pastoral or shepherds or even farmers in some cases. But that's such a big deal that through the power of God, they were able to knock down these walls.
Right.
Nobody had done anything even close until I guess they were Mongolians 1,000 years later. But that was really neat.
I didn't know that.
Archaeology has found evidence of those fallen walls.
I had heard that.
Yes, they have dug the ancient Jericho site. They found the copper wall.
They were not authority block walls that we see today.
No, they were very, yeah,
They were church.
yeah, across the top of it.
You remember the description in Jonah of the Nineveh wall, how wide it was. These were not tiny towns.
Yeah, well, weren't they? There was homes kind of in them, weren't there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Interesting. I think it's fascinating when you think about it and the power of God. Yeah. So there wasn't anything left. It was like dust almost. I mean, it wasn't a rubble or anything, was there? Well, you know what I mean. I mean, it wasn't like if we knock down a concrete block wall, you've got all that concrete block, got to climb over. But it says there wasn't rubble. So, somebody's blank work. Who would you put in there for that one? This one I kind of struggled with myself. Another one I struggled with. I'm asking what to do better. Give me the answers on some of these things. I put down Joshua's work. I wasn't really sure because those verses in chapter 11 talks about Joshua. He took the whole land according to what the Lord had said unto Moses. So I don't know if that's correct or not. Joshua conquered the promised land. Like we said in chapter 1, God sets forth the boundaries, the area that he's going to conquer. Anyway, so if anybody has something different for that, good for you. That's what I have. The next part, we go into the book of Judges, and we spend a little bit more time in the book of Judges. In the book of Judges, I don't know how much you've read through that or whatever. It's interesting in that it just kind of keeps making a circle. You got the children of Israel. They do pretty good for a period of time. They sin. They get away from God. God lets them be defeated by their enemies. Well, then they start whining and crying to God. So God comes back to them and, saves them, brings them back in. And then they kind of live in a peaceful time for a little bit of time. And then they do this, and they just keep going in a big circle. It's amazing when you read through it. And again, Eric even made that comment. He said, he read through the book of Judges, and he got tired of the people whining about halfway through. God, why don't you just, do something with these people? And then it hit him, well, I'm the same way, so I don't want God to do that because I keep sinning over and over and over, and I need God's forgiveness.
Remember when we studied Judges Sunday morning a couple of years ago? Basically, you got 3 judges that stand out. Obviously, Samson is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Gideon's the other. Probably Deborah would be the third.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this period of time covers around 300 years. And there's 15 judges in this period of time. It's a 300-year period. So that's another fact, just kind of, I actually made a note in my Bible at the beginning of the Judges about that, just so that I can remember it. Just some interesting things about Judges. Of course, God's commandments to the Israelites when he goes into the book of Judges is they're to drive the Canaanites out of the promised land. They're to totally destroy these people, get rid of them, wipe them off the face of the earth. That's their instructions. They are told, do not worship the false gods of these Canaanite people. Don't fall into that trap. And do not marry any of them. God says you are not to have anything to do with these people. Now, we're going to find out what happens otherwise, though, aren't we? Yeah. Yeah, in a nutshell, they did all of the above, didn't they? Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about the book of Judges. The first one we're going to talk about is the what-handed judge. The left-handed judge. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we discussed that in Sunday school classes that if you were left-handed back in those days, you were considered quite abnormal.
Yeah. You were odd.
You were odd.
Yep, you were odd. Okay. Okay, so what was his name? I think that's what goes in that next blank. Ehud, yeah, however you want to say it. Okay. He was the son of Gera, a Benjamite. Left-handed, man, left-handed. Okay. So what's the next one? The blank judge. What would go in that one? I put a woman judge, okay, who was Deborah, okay. Okay, that's the next judge. Well, we're not going to get through all these questions, so he's going to have to cover them. But anyway, back up on Ehud, of course, he goes in to the tent of the king, and the king is so fat, plus he's got his left hand in his coat, and like Bill said, left-handed was pretty rare back in those days. So the king didn't feel threatened because he had his left hand under his coat. Most people, if they would have had their right hand under their coat, then they could have drawn a sword, and gone after the king. Well, so the king sees he's got a left hand, he doesn't feel threatened. Well, that was his demise, wasn't it? But Ehud pulls out a sword, stabs the king, and the king's done with. The king is so fat that his fat covers over the sword, and they don't really realize what happened until Ehud escapes. But interesting story. If you haven't read that or haven't read it for a while, go back and read that. It's a good story. Of course, then we got Deborah. She was a prophetess. The only woman judge that we have record of. She was one of the 15. What's noteworthy about her, the Canaanites were under a king named Jabin, Jabin. He treated Israel very badly for 20 years, and Deborah was the judge at this time, and God told her to send for Barak to command an army to go against this king. Barak would not go into battle unless Deborah goes with him. So because of his lack of faith, I guess would be the term to use, Deborah says, you're not going to get to kill the king. You're going to lead the men into battle or whatever, but you're not going to get to kill the king. The king is going to be killed by a woman. And so if you read on down through that, we find out that exactly is what happens. The king escapes. His commander, Sisera. Anyway, the king escapes, and he's in a tent. He's going to sleep, and Sisera, the commander, his wife, Jael, goes in and drives a tent peg through his head and pins him to the ground and kills him. So anyway, he was killed by a woman, just as Deborah had told him that was going to take place. After this period of time, Israelites had went through another one of those periods of time where they had peace for about 40 years until she died. Anyway, again, good stories when you have time to go back and read some of this stuff. Interesting things. The next one, the judge with an army of 300 is Gideon. And of course, the story of that is, God tells Gideon to gather up men, get ready for battle. He has around 10,000 men, I believe is how many he has. And God said, that's too many. God says, I'm going to deliver you in this battle. I don't need this many men. So how does Gideon weed out the men? What do they do? They go down to a creek, stream to get it. Yeah, the ones that lapped it up with their hands, that way they could keep one hand on their weapon, couldn't they? They could be prepared in case the enemy attacked. So that's how he weeded it down to the 300 that God told him. God said, that's fine, that's all I want.
How funny it is that history repeats itself, because later on we have the Spartans and the 300, Leonidas, and the Battle of Thermopylae. And of course, unlike Gideon, who was the victim, they lost.
Yep. Yeah. The next judge says that he made blank promise. Foolish, right? A foolish promise. And what was his name? Jephthah. Okay. A little real quick part of that story is he made a vow that whoever came out of his tent, he would offer as a sacrifice what turned out to be his daughter. And so anyway, you can read through that. We won't go into a lot of details on that. He did not end up offering her up, but interesting story again. Who was considered the next judge, the blank judge? The strong, okay? And Samson, okay? Where was Samson's strength? In his hair. Yeah. Pardon me? The length of his hair. Yes, exactly. It wasn't that his hair, but right. It was a Nazirite vow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. His hair was not to be cut. Okay. Of course, he lets Delilah talk him into it, doesn't it? Telling him the secret. And so, what do they? I know, doggone you women! I tell you, you're the downfall. Once they find out what his weakness is, and they're able to capture him, what do they do to Samson? Pluck his eyes out, don't they? Yeah. Cut his hair, pluck his eyes out. Yeah. Like an animal, made him grind wheat. Okay. What they failed to do, though, was what? Well, they didn't kill him, but what? They tried to kill him. They didn't keep cutting his hair. Yeah. So as his hair grew back, yeah, and when you think about it, once they found out what it was, But anyway, so that was their demise, because he took care of them in the end. Killed 3,000 men and women, I think is what it says. Yeah. 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 Okay. The next one, the blank judge. What do you think goes in there? Fat judge. He was. Who was it? Eli. He was fat. Okay, I didn't put fat. I put old. You put what, Michelle? Old. Okay. He what? He was a bad judge. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know that he was necessarily a bad judge, but he was a terrible father. Yeah, he was. If you want to see an example of a bad father, go read about Eli. Yeah, how not to do it. How not to be a father. Go read about Eli. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. And that takes us right into the next one, the blank judge. What goes in that hole? What do you think? Last? That's what I had, the last. The last judge, who was Samuel. Exactly. Okay. Well, we got about 3 minutes, so that's about all we're going to hit. Is this? What do you think hits into the next part? David's blank blank. Great grandmother. Who would have been? No. Rahab. Rahab would have been the great grandmother. Yeah. Oh, does it? Okay. Well, the way I read, and I didn't go that particular one. I didn't go look at the card, so it might be Ruth. But the stuff that he gave me, the handout, or to kind of go with it, gave. It starts off with Salmon, Salmon, and Rahab, and then it went to Boaz, and Boaz Ruth, Obed, Jesse, and then King David. And this, well, I'm sorry, you're right. Right there it says, I even highlighted it. Ruth. Ruth became the great grandmother of David. It helps when you read. I had that argument with self, and self just didn't listen. So I'm sorry, Ruth. The card is correct. Go by the card. And question, when you got a doubt, look at the card. I didn't look at it.
Ruth was the mother of Obed, and Obed was the father of Jesse.
Yep. Rahab is in the lineage, but she would have been a great grandmother. Yeah, she would be. But anyway, so Ruth was the great grandmother. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll let Matt cover. We'll give you time to fill in all those questions for next week. We'll let Matt jump on those next week. I appreciate you guys helping me out there, and like I said, I know it's kind of basic things, but I hope you're able to get something out of these things, or just be, if nothing else, being reminded of some of the stuff, because we don't always talk about it a lot. You know, we forget about some of the things that some of these people did back in the Old Testament. Time to ring the bell, Keith.
Almost.
I mean, I got to stand up here for